Hello and welcome to Football League World TV. I'm Billy Mulley and today I'm joined by Marcus Ali as we talk all things Shrewsbury Town and assess their playoff chances after a bright start to the campaign. Marcus, first of all, how are you getting on this morning?
Yeah, really well. Thanks, Billy. You're really enjoying the sort of club focus shows we're doing this week. So, looking forward to shedding some light on the Shrews and what's been an impressive start to the season.
Yeah, as we both alluded to there, it's been a very strong start to the campaign, a League One season where all the attention has been on the likes of Derby County, Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich Town, but quietly going under the radar have been Shrewsbury Town. Any Shrewsbury fans watching today, please send any questions or comments. We've, of course, spoken about the kind of under the radar situation at the start of the campaign, so it'll be interesting to hear from you and any other EFL fans. Please get in contact with us and share your thoughts on the Shrows so far. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Football League World TV as well. And if you like today's video, then also share and like. Marcus, we'll go into the start of the campaign and sort of the season as a whole, looking as a collective, looking at points tally, looking at individual results. But I guess the first question is, are you surprised at the moment to see Shrewsbury up in 8th and, just a point off 4th place?
I am a little bit, yeah. I wasn't as sold as some people on their summer transfer business. I saw there was quite a few people tipping them up as potential playoff outsiders going into the campaign. But seeing how competitive League One is towards the top end, I couldn't quite see it. I think we look at the last few seasons, they've just been able to sort of keep themselves above water, keeping themselves comfortably away from the real crux of the relegation battle. I kind of saw it as more of the same. So, yeah, that said, I'm definitely pleasantly surprised by the start. I think, once again, they've probably been found a little bit wanting in the final third heading into this season. An injury to Aidan O'Brien hasn't quite helped that. And, of course, Daniel Udo being ruled out for the rest of the season, suffering an early knee injury, was a real blow. So considering that in particular, how crucial Udo was last season, I think Cotterill should be very pleased with the results that they've been able to pick up so far. Obviously, it's still early days in the table. You're still only a small bad run away from really sliding, or a good run from putting yourself right into contention. So, yeah, 8th place at the moment feels like potentially a little too early to be counting that as real contention for the playoffs. But no, I've been really impressed with what I've seen. It's definitely exceeded my expectations, and some players have hit the ground running and performed better at the start of the season than maybe the heights I expected from them going into the campaign.
And as we've seen, it was a slightly inconsistent start, but now 18 points from the last 8. And you mentioned there some of the injury concerns they've had to contend with. Can you see them? Is this now them on sort of the right path? And I guess the second part to this question is what's changed in your eyes?
I think the fixture difficulty has decreased significantly. Obviously, you can only beat what's put in front of you, and they deserve a huge amount of credit for taking advantage of that kind of schedule. They played Ipswich Town and Derby in their first 5, and since I don't think they've played a team above them in the league table. So from that point of view, I do think the fixtures have fallen quite kindly for them. But I think the emergence of Christian Sadie at the top of the pitch has been something that's been able to improve their results. A really direct, physical, attacking threat on loan from Bournemouth. Didn't quite show what he was capable of on loan at Burton Albion last season, but credit to Steve Cotterill for seeing something in him and taking him in on loan from the Cherries for the season as he's been able to get his fitness up as the season's progressed. He's becoming a really crucial player in the final third. It'll be interesting to see whether they can field a front two of potentially him and Aidan O'Brien in the coming weeks. I think that would be an interesting sort of prospect for fans to see how it would develop. But the main thing that I lean towards is the fixture difficulty. I do think of most of the sides around them in the table, they have had something of a beneficial run of fixtures, but of course, taking advantage of that will improve confidence and belief in the squad that they can perform better when the fixtures do get a lot tougher in the coming weeks. I think having a settled side, a settled system, playing 3-5-2, very organised backline, under Cotterill does give them an advantage, and it just shows that I think giving a manager a little bit of time, there have been times in the last couple of seasons where they might have decided to pull the trigger with relegation fears, but sticking with Cotterill is definitely paying dividends, and I think there's a few sort of more long-serving players in the squad that know their roles really well at the moment, and yeah, they're proving to be very tough to break down in that formation.
As you mentioned there, Daniel Udo out for a long period of time for in consideration of the season. You mentioned there about Christian Sadie coming in, the kind of impact he's had, both from a goal scoring point of view and in general in terms of his attacking play. Also got the ex-Coventry duo of Bayliss and Jordan Shipley, I guess, playing quite prominent roles going forward as well. So what have you made of Shrewsbury so far as an attacking unit? You mentioned there Aidan O'Brien getting back to full fitness could be a real boost, but in what you've seen so far, what have you made of Shrewsbury going forward?
Well, I don't think it's been a huge upgrade on last season, to be honest, but when you consider you're taking Udo out of that, I think it has to be seen as an improvement. Last season they were the 4th lowest scorers in League One. This season, after just a few months of the season, they are still in around that same element of the table if you rank the teams of the goals that they're putting in the net. So yeah, it doesn't feel like a huge upgrade. I feel like there could be more to come from Ryan Bowman. Got double figures last season, has been in and out of the side so far this term. He's got 2 league goals. I think he's someone who can contribute, has rarely been prolific where he's been in his career, but does seem to be an effective contributor when they need him. I'd like to see maybe a bit more from Tom Bloxham, still only 18, but showed a lot of promise last season. Be exciting to see if he can get some minutes, but I do look towards Aidan O'Brien as a big player to come back into the side. We've seen him be a danger at championship level in the not too distant past. He showed his quality in glimpses at Sunderland, at Portsmouth last season, but I think he could be a real key asset to come in alongside some of the potentially less experienced players at the level, like Sadie and Raquel Pike, who spent time on loan at Scunthorpe last season, has probably picked up more minutes than supporters would have expected at the start of the season. So there's reasons to feel encouraged about them going forward, particularly the way that they've responded and been able to cover for the loss of Udo. But in terms of actual raw numbers and where I see them sort of ranking in terms of their attacking processes this season, I can't see it being much of an upgrade on this season, to be honest, unless O'Brien is able to come in and sort of roll back the years to the form we saw from him in his Millwall days.
And then on the flip side of things, defensively speaking, it's obviously been 14 goals scored, 14 goals conceded. Che Dunkley, Taylor Moore and Flanagan, the main culprits of operating in that back three so far. I guess with those three, there's a lot of experience in there. There's a lot of ability. What have you made of them as a defensive unit? And is there scope there for that to be what they build this season upon, defensive resilience?
I would say so. Yeah, they've been very reliable. I'm not concerned about the side, even with sort of maybe some ups and downs to come in the final third. I think that defensive contingent is solid enough to keep them picking up points, staying in games, making them low margin, even if there is a drop off in the final third. I'm a big Che Dunkley fan. I think the only reason he's probably playing at New Meadow at the moment is because of his injury record in recent years. I think he's potentially a player that would be playing in the Championship if he had been able to stay fully fit. A really impressive leader, great communicator in that backline. So if they can keep him fit, I don't see them having any concerns in terms of falling down the table too far. Tom Flanagan obviously probably got a bit more ball playing capabilities than someone like Dunkley, but still very strong in the air, good to have in the rear guard. And Taylor Moore's a really smart pickup on loan. Hasn't quite been able to fully break into that Bristol City side in the last few seasons. So yeah, really smart pickup to bolster the back line. Also like Matthew Pennington, who's missed the last few games, I think is a really good option to have at this level and sort of similar to Flanagan, a bit more comfortable with the ball at his feet in one of those outer, the two left or right side of the back three positions. So yeah, it's easily a top 10 back line for me. It's definitely been some kind of identity that the club's had over the last few years, being one of the most defensively solid sides in the division and being able to steer clear of relegation for that reason. So, yeah, I've been impressed with them so far. I think Dunkley's a really good signing, and if they can keep him fit, I don't see them having too many concerns as the season goes on.
Of course, any Shrewsbury fans out there, any opinions on the players we've talked about so far, any of the new signings, any sort of fears going into the January window, any desires, just let us know in the comments. We'll put it all to Marcus. We'll go on to something you mentioned earlier, Marcus, about the fact the fixture list has fallen quite kindly to them so far. The fact that they haven't really fared up against many of the top teams. The sole game against Ipswich Town is probably the standout fixture so far for them. 3-0 loss, the only team they've played that are currently above them. And I guess looking at that means they've got games against these kind of teams coming up. Do you think that will give us a better idea of where Shrewsbury are and be a real test of character, as well as sort of Cotterill's capabilities and exactly how far he can take this team this season?
Yeah, it will give us a fairer reflection of where they're at. I try not to read too much into the table at this stage because it can change so much so quickly. But yeah, once taken on, I think they've got Plymouth and Portsmouth in their next 3 fixtures. So that'll be interesting to see how they get on to attacking contingents that have shown a lot of potential so far this season. So it will test that back line, which of course has been such a strength. So I do potentially expect them to drop to mid-table, maybe lower mid-table, but no further than that, to keep the top half well within their sights and in their grasp. So yeah, it will definitely give a fairer reflection of where they're at, because saying that they're just 1 point off fourth place is a hell of a start. So yeah, I think it will give us we'll be in a better position to judge where the squad is at and just what their potential is after this next sort of month or so.
And of course, you've mentioned this season in relation to last season's performance. Just a quick question on the summer transfer window and how it worked out for them. Do you think that the summer they had, the quality they were able to attract, the fact that they've started on the front foot this season, do you think that changes ambitions, regardless of the position in the table right now? Do you think the fact that they were able to recruit probably better than they have done in recent years, does that automatically widen the scope of how far they can go this season?
I'd say so, yeah. I think the depth in the squad is an upgrade on last season. Cotterill is able to rotate and deal with some fitness issues with better quality players than he was able to introduce last season. Whether that makes them top 6 contenders, I'm not so sure. I'd still probably say that the squad is probably a lower mid-table one. But yeah, I think that its supporters are right to have more lofty expectations and ambitions than they did last season. I think if you offered anyone a top half finish for Shrewsbury this season, they would have taken it. You want to see progress, and the Shrews, even though they showed some good form in patches last season, were sort of almost getting dragged into a relegation battle at times, even towards the back end of the season. So if they can keep a really comfortable cushion on that conversation for the entire campaign, I think that would be a sign of progress. And of course, yeah, looking at potentially a top half finish as something that would be a real representative of success and would show that Cotterill is doing a really good job and taking them forward in the long term. So yeah, it was an impressive summer window. It puts them in an even stronger position heading into January and potentially next summer to build on that. So yeah, I think they can definitely have higher expectations for the players that are able to bring in the summer.
And we've already gone through the fixture list, but looking at other exterior factors out of Shrewsbury's control, what challenges do you envisage in this League One campaign there being for a team like Shrewsbury competing against, teams that have very large history of operating in the Championship and above? Is the fact they're going under the radar a good thing as well?
Yeah, I would say so for sure. There will be tough spells to come this season. There always are for most clubs in League One. So it's going to be a case of how they deal with that. I think it's Charlton, Portsmouth and Plymouth in their next trio. So they lose 2 of those. it'd be interesting to see how they react. I do think there will be some kind of run where they struggle in the final third. There's just not enough proven goal scorers in the side without Udo and with O'Brien yet to really get up to full fitness in that side. It wouldn't be a surprise to see a potential drought. It's just whether they're going to be able to grind out results during that and keep themselves pushing in the right direction. So goals is the real issue for me. Potentially something they could address in January. They've already got 5 loan players in their squad, one of them being Julian Da Costa, though. So he started the season well, but has struggled for fitness since. Potentially could see him maybe going back to Coventry in January if he's not able to get back to full fitness, and then that would create space to bring in another player to hope to bolster them in the final third. So yeah, it's still the top of the pitch that I'm worried about for Shrewsbury. We haven't been concerned about them at the back for some years now in League One. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see how they deal with that and how Cotterill keeps sort of reinventing them in the final third. I think there would have been a lot of fears had you told supporters that they were going to have to play the whole season without Daniel Udo. So to keep them performing admirably and on the same level as they were going forward last season without him is going to be a constant challenge as the season progresses.
You mentioned before that squad depth has improved. You look at the January transfer window, and you mentioned there that you may, if you're in Cotterill's position, you'd look to bolster the attacking options. Is there any other positions on the pitch that you'd like extra competition? If we're talking about in the context of Shrewsbury going on to potentially be dark horses for the playoffs, is there any other positions on the pitch that you think they need to address?
Well, they do have options in the final third. I'd maybe like one more. And then also in central midfield, I think they're a little bit light. They have been performing very well, the midfield 3 at the moment of Leahy, Bayliss and Carl Winchester, a very impressive loan pickup from Sunderland. But I think there could be more depth in midfield if they were to lose a couple of players to injury there, particularly Tom Bayliss. I think we could see a little bit of a drop off. They only spent 1 transfer fee in the summer to bring in Jordan Shipley from Coventry. Did a lot more sort of permanent business and paying transfer fees in the summer of 2021. So whether that says to me that they might be hesitant to pay another one in January, I think remains to be seen. Obviously, you already got the 5 loan players in that you can name within a match day squad at least. So that could potentially be an option to strengthen. So yeah, although I think they're maybe lacking in the final third, there is enough personnel to rotate and keep things fresh up there while playing a front 2. So yeah, potentially some more depth in midfield areas, because that is one area that I think if they were to suffer some injuries, it could impact their form and performance levels.
So now Marcus pushing you for an answer, and we've argued the cases for and against Shrewsbury at the moment, enjoying very, very good form. Do you think it's unsustainable form, though? Do you think this is something that may drop off? They're sort of on the upward trajectory at the moment, and they might dip back into the mid-table pack as the season progresses? Or do you think this is there is potential for this to be sustained? Do you consider them as potential dark horses for the League One playoffs?
Sadly not. I do think it's a bottom half squad that's overperforming at the moment. They've scored just 14 goals from 13 games, and they've been slightly running hot in that to score that many goals from the chances that they've been creating. I do expect a gap to open up at some stage between the top 8, 9, maybe 10 teams in League One and the rest. I think that was something that was expected to happen going into the season, and with Oxford United and MK Dons not sort of hitting the heights they did last season, I think maybe the top 9 or 10 sides will be able to break away from the rest of the division. That said, if they have an interesting January window potentially, to capitalise on this momentum, I think Cotterill's really got something good going at New Meadow. But it remains to be seen whether they're going to be able to mix it with the top 6 picture for the remainder of the campaign. Not for me. I think they're probably a few transfer windows away from having a squad capable of really competing and making their presence known within the top half. So yeah, I think in the next month or so, we're probably going to see them slip towards mid-table. But if their strong defensive process can continue, then they might be able to keep games low margin and pick up points against opposition where they're not expected to. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting next month to really judge where they're at. But right now, I do expect them to drop towards mid-table or lower mid-table rather than bulldoze their way into the top 6 picture.
Well, thank you very much, Marcus. Big thank you for joining today. It's been great to hear your thoughts on Shrewsbury, and it'll be interesting to keep an eye on the Shrows as the season progresses. If you've liked today, please like the video. Also, subscribe to us on Football League World TV if you're new. Coming up on Football League World TV a little bit later at 4 o'clock, we've got Alfie, Ben, and Chris Gallagher. They're going to be on the score prediction show as they look ahead to tonight's fixtures. But until then, it is goodbye from us.